In this problem, it says that a corporation must appoint a president, chief executive officer, chief operating officer, and chief financial officer. It must also appoint a planning committee with 4 different members. There are 17 qualified candidates, and the officers can also serve on the committee, and we want to complete the 3 parts. So the first part is just how many different ways can the officers be appointed? And there's 2 different ways to approach this. The first way is to use the multiplication rule. And that says to multiply the number of ways the first task can be done. So in this case, that would be 17, because there's 17 possibilities for president, times the number of ways to do the second task. And so now we want to select the chief executive officer. We can't use the person who was selected for president, so now we're down to 16 possibilities. So it depends on the problem whether or not you're choosing with or without replacement. So you have to just look at the problem and see what is the context, what is the situation. Sometimes they'll tell you specifically if you're allowed to choose with replacement or if you're choosing without replacement. So it just depends on the problem. And then we select the next officer, and of course we've used up 2 of them, so we're down to 15. And finally we choose the last officer, and there are 14 of those. So that's one way to approach this. So here I get 57,120 as my answer. Now another way I could have gotten the same answer would be to use permutations. Because the order is important and we're selecting without replacement. So I could take the 17 individuals who are available and I choose 4 of them. And this also gives me the same result of 57,120. So the multiplication rule and permutations have some overlap. That's if you are selecting without replacement, then those wind up being equivalent. So now let's take a look at part B. And now let's make this a little bigger. Okay, so now we want to know how many ways we can appoint the committee. So in this case, the order is not important. Whether you're the first person on the committee or the second person, it doesn't matter. You're both on the committee. And since all the officers are available to serve on the committee, that means that we're starting with 17 and we're choosing 4 people because it said 4 people on the committee. So in this case, we're going to use combinations. Because the order is not important. Or doesn't make a difference to the problem. And here again, we are choosing without replacement. So that's important for combinations. So you can't have Jerry be selected 4 times for the committee. It has to be 4 different people. So we are going to calculate 17C4. And that gives me 2,380. So that's our answer for part B. And then in part C, we want to know what is the probability of randomly selecting the committee members and getting the 4 youngest of the qualified candidates. So how many ways are there to get the 4 youngest? We know that the number of ways to select the committee is 2,380, because that's what we just calculated. And if we have to select the 4 youngest, then there's only one way to do that. So our answer is just 1 over 2,380. And that's how you do those problems.